Hello Booktube, welcome to my channel. Welcome to my very original tag. And yeah, I wanted to celebrate because I recently reached 100 subscribers, which if you think of them as real people behind the camera, which I know you are, then it's a big number. It's a lot of people. It's more than friends I have and more than friends I want. So I decided to make a tag that is a bit different from normal tags. It's supposed to be very short and very to the point. And it has only one question. This is the book never written tag, or the books never written tag. Let's leave it but in book because I want this tag to have multiple editions in the future. Feel free to do so. But so far, like, the idea of the tag is you have definitely, if you read, if you walk, if you are alive, at some point you've read a book, you've watched a movie, you've walked through the park and thought of a book that should exist. A book that you would like to read, a book that you like to write, a book that you would like to see join the libraries of this world. And then you checked and that book did not exist. Sometimes it happens that it does exist, and sometimes that is great because it means that you can read it, and sometimes it is not great because it means you don't get to read it, to write it. But I'm sure there are more than one book that you can think of. I, for instance, can think of, I could make a list of 100 books that have never been written and that I can think of writing, and I consider them to be good ideas from my own perspective. Of course, there are a couple of premises to this tag, a couple of things that you need to keep in mind. One of them is that you are putting your idea out there. So this tag, like, the main premise is that you want that book to exist. It's not, you don't want to write that book. You're not trying to keep it for yourself. You're not being sort of like greedy about the idea or anything. So when I'm presenting the idea, I'm more than happy for someone else to take that idea and run away with it if they have the capacity to write that book, to make it happen. I don't think that the ideas anyways are the thing that makes books. I think that work in writing is what makes them. So I don't think that having an idea for a book really gives you any entitlement to claim the book. I think that writing the book gives you that entitlement. However, if you have a book that you are protective about, that you are actually wanting to write, then don't talk about that one. I'm sure you have 100 or many books that you have thought of and that should exist. So that is the point. We go through those kind of books all the time, and I'd like to create a invisible library for all of those books. This tag, as I said, can be repeated as many times as possible. And the only point of that tag is to, one, see if there is any coincidence in the books that we think about, or there is any theme throughout Booktube of books that we think should exist, and maybe then we should get together and write them. And of course, which I think will happen more commonly, discover books. I'm sure that many of the books that I think should exist already exist, and I'm just not aware of it. So if I come up with a book and I'm like, this is an amazing idea, I want it to exist, and then someone tells me that exists, that is amazing, because then I get to read it. So it's a way to also discover books that we have been sort of like on the tip of our tongue, or just wanting to read for a long time, that we think don't exist, and they might do, and maybe someone else knows that. So to discover new books and to claim those that don't yet exist is what we are looking for here. So without further ado, I'll talk about my book. As I said, I only chose this one because it's the most recent idea I had in relation to a book. It's not more relevant than any other. I have a whole document full of like book ideas. And I don't know. I don't know what I'll do with that. I don't know what I'll ever do with that. But this is a history, and that's another thing that I wanted to say. Feel free to not be fully accurate with like, it's an idea. We are dreaming here. My knowledge of history is limited, so I have an idea, and I have a couple of, based on intuitions, as generally ideas tend to be. That is not to say that it's, maybe once I decide to pursue this, if I ever wanted to write this book, I might happen to discover that it's a lost cause, that it was completely wrong in my reasoning, on my line of thinking, or that there's a fact that invalidates the whole idea. That is also something that I can find out through you. But for now, let's just dream. The book that I'm thinking of for this first edition of the Book Never Written tag is The Price You Paid, with this amazing cover from the artist Gris, etc., which I'm sure many of you will have heard of. The Price You Paid, it's a history of the correlation between the expansion of civilization and the loss of our wild areas. It would probably be focused on Europe because it has a longer history with deforestation and the destruction of nature. But the idea is to, it's already an assumption within nonfiction that sort of like civilization is in tension with nature, and that the more civilization expands, the more nature recedes and is lost. In this history, I would like to see civilization as the expansion of human powers, the expansion of human control over the non-human. And the reason why I drew a vote is because, for example, here in the UK, which is where I live, there is 2 instances of massive deforestations that I know of. One is when the Navy, the fleet of the Royal Army for England became the hegemonic, the largest one in the world, when it overcame the Spanish army and the French army. To achieve that, many trees had to be cut, and many roads had to be created. And as a result of that, and as a result of I think that was around the 15th, 16th century, I'm not sure. Again, this is about dreaming, not about facts and logic. This is about like any ideas that you have, don't think them too much, just share them. So the other moment was basically the 19th century with the invention of the steam train. The steam train, it's pretty much a symbol for progress, almost a mythical object for the human powers and their capacity to harvest and control nature. And the steam train basically once again signified a massive destruction of wild areas all over the world. Of course, wild areas and forests are not the same. The UK still has wild areas. Scotland has massive expanses of land without any human or even signs of humans. However, I'm saying this as a person that not only lives in the UK, but has hiked all over Wales, Cornwall, Scotland, and England. And I've been up and down, even Galloway, not in Galloway Forest, but I've been like in New Forest, in like the Highlands. I've been enough places in the UK for me not to know any other person, not even English people, and I've been living here for a few years, that has seen so many different places in this country. So I think I have enough empirical evidence for my conviction that the UK has no forests. No forests. It has woodlands. It has massive expanses of farms with trees, patches of trees here and there, but forests are sort of like a compound of trees that is large enough for you to have a possibility of getting lost inside, which is what for me is a forest. Anything less than that is not a forest. There's no forest in the UK. There's almost no forest in Europe. And the thesis of the book would be that the reason for that is the expansion of civilization. The search of nations for hegemony, for them to gain relevance in the geopolitical map, necessarily signifies that those nations have to give up their wild areas, have to completely destroy and corrupt their natural spaces. And a history of that tension, taking the premise that civilization, technological progress, and nature are in tension and in constant not in constant conflict, but that their expansion is proportionally inversed. So the more we expand technologically and progress, and the more power our nation harvests, the less natural spaces are left, is taken as a premise. And then what this book is doing is, upon that premise, just doing a history of that, an account, a gathering of evidence. I think a book like that could be very interesting and very mind-opening to many people. And I don't know if it has been written. And I certainly know that there are books that study like histories of deforestation, and I know that there are books that study the philosophical books that study the problem with the moment in which civilization became necessarily anti-natural or anti-human even. And they both are very interesting, but I never saw a history that follows the account of that conflict throughout its beginnings. So there you go, The Price You Paid, a really cool title as well. I don't know if there is any book title like this. Actually, I do. I searched this yesterday. The Price You Paid. There's a thriller that is called The Price You Paid as well. But I think it's a really cool title because you could say that these wild areas, these forests, this part of our world, the most significant part of our world, which is the natural world, which is the only world there is the price we had to pay to give that up in order to achieve that level of control over our spaces. So there you go. Again, The Price You Paid. I am looking forward to hear your ideas on this topic, and to know if you have one or more videos that you're gonna make about this, about specific books, or I don't know, maybe a series, maybe a whole body of work on one on one topic, maybe a single poem, anything. I'm eager to know. I'm eager to see how big is the library of books that haven't yet been written, and that we can foresee the necessity of them being written. I'm gonna tag a bunch of people because that seems to be the fashion lately, and I definitely would like to know which books are you sort of like craving for. That's all. I'll see you on the other side.